And welcome back to Mixed Media Live. We're back for another week of arguing with Reddit. Yeah, Mixed Media, what are we? We're a group of 3 artists in our respective fields. We like talking about all things art, whether it's in film, music, gaming, whatever. And we like talking about a range of things, whether it's popular culture, or it's philosophy, or it's news, or it's your hot takes, which is what we're going to be taking on today. And so, yeah, before we continue, I'll introduce myself. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a film director and also a media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella Productions. You can look it up to see what I do. I'll pass it over to Ben.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flutist and a media composer.
Hey, I'm Nathan. I'm a game developer and 3D modeler.
Yeah, and we are here every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to talk about pretty much anything. And this week we're going to be pulling up some things we found for each other off of Reddit. We've not seen a lot of these hot takes beforehand, and so what we'll be doing is I'll be putting them up on the screen, or if you're listening to the audio version, I'll be reading the takes off of Reddit and also other internet sources like YouTube comments, etc., etc. But the cool thing is, since this is a live show, if you tune in live, you can also add in your hot takes next time we do this. I think we're going to do this maybe every other week or something like that. And if you tune in, you can add your own hot take and see what we think about it. And we'll react to it. How are you guys doing? How are things in your guys' art worlds?
Doing all right, I guess. I haven't had time to catch up on like news and my stuff, but yeah.
I've been doing pretty well. I've been doing a lot of studying of some British composers this week, kind of 20th century British composers who some really interesting stuff. A lot of influence that they had on film composing that people totally don't recognize or forget. So some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, cool. And for me, what's been going on? Still working on the new product that I'm launching, or a new service, I should say, with the company. And yeah, just kind of, it's been a pretty normal week, just kind of grinding away at this whole project of trying to be successful. So I guess we'll just hop right into it. I'm trying to pull up the first one. I think we're going to start with gaming this time, because I think it got a little bit shortchanged. This is a news bit, so I just want to see what Nathan thinks about what's happening with Epic Games. It says Epic Games spent more than $1 billion on launch exclusives in 2019. And then the Redditors are having a discussion as to whether these exclusives have any merit to them, or if they're just sort of cycling through these games just to have them exclusive for a short period of time, then to turn them over whenever the hype is gone. So what do you think, Nathan?
I'm not sure about, obviously I don't have the numbers on this, on how well it's working and whatnot, but it's quite a lot of money. But that being said, Epic Games is a huge company, so I kind of get it. It's not, relatively speaking, it's not that much of a expensive endeavor for them to go into and just test it out and see what happens, if it helps or not. I don't think it's working. Obviously, as I said before, I don't have the numbers, but just speaking to friends and whatnot, there's still like a net negative outlook on the Epic Games store. That being said, I used Epic Games once because they had a game that only they had, and then it went to Steam anyways. So I don't know. That was strange.
I was just curious as to what your thoughts would be on the value of exclusives in general. Let me see. Did they say something in particular? I picked this out a while ago.
In general, I feel like exclusives are quite powerful, right? That's like half the driving force of the PlayStation, for example, right? I don't know, I guess I've never heard of multiple titles that people have been like, oh yeah, this is why I use Epic Games for, or whatever. I don't know if I know anybody who uses Epic Games regularly. So yeah. Oh
yeah, this person.
Other than that, I don't know.
This person says, and where are their returns? You spend $1 billion on exclusives, yet the other 130 plus million on free games. Where's the profit coming from? You need to ask yourself that.
I'm wondering what they're referring to by the 130 plus million on free games. I assume what they're talking about. I guess they could be talking about two things. Either out of the 1 billion, 130 million dollars went to grabbing free to play exclusives, or they're talking about the deals that Epic Games make, where essentially Epic Games has free games. I believe every week they just take a game and it's free for the week, and once you get it, you have it forever. I wonder if they're talking about the 130 million they spent on that. I'm not actually sure. Oh, the next reply says, I'm pretty sure most of it is coming from Fortnite. I think that they're considering okay, so if we're talking about like just free games they put there, I think the idea would just be to get more people to use their platform, right? Like, oh yeah, the game that I was referring to, that I said that I used Epic Games for, is called Spellbreak. The game's free. I guess it worked, but I didn't look at the store or anything like that. I just went and played the game. So I don't know how many people are gonna go and go like, look at the store while they're there. I feel like maybe me as a person, I'm very sort of not affected by advertising that much. I never feel compelled to buy anything, buy an advertisement. I refuse to look at ads on like YouTube. I just don't even like think about it, right? So maybe that's just me, but I don't think they're working, because I've never heard of anybody who's like, oh yeah, I use Epic Games regularly and I got into it because of this game that they have only on their platform. So yeah,
I feel like if anything, Fortnite's just probably the primary driver of the entire store, is what I would think.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to just get people, right? I don't know why you spend $1 billion on exclusives, not $1 billion on a better platform. They just lack features that Steam has. Steam is not like, it's not really nothing crazy. I feel like it hasn't been updated in ages. There's nothing new to it.
But that makes it worse, though. Like,
what'd you say?
That makes it worse, because they could try to innovate.
Yeah, exactly.
Beyond
like
Steam.
When this started happening, I was like, oh, if Steam's not careful, they could get their lunch eaten essentially by Epic Games, who has proved that they're willing to innovate. But apparently not in the store. It's very bare bones. You can buy things, you can add friends. That's about it. And nothing really else you can do with it. There's no probably the biggest deal about Steam, other than I guess the general store, right, is that it has the Steam Workshop where you can download mods really easily. They automatically update. You can download content for games that other people have made. And Epic Games doesn't have that, which makes some games just unviable, such as say Kerbal Space Program, right? You can play vanilla for only so many hours before you're like, all right, I want to try some mods out. If you're on Epic Games, we're gonna go to moddb.com or whatever and like download them like manually. Like, we're not cavemen, all right? We're not gonna do that. We're just gonna get it on Steam instead. Assuming Kerbal Space Program's on Epic Games, or the Epic Store. But yeah.
Would the fact that it's not as innovative a program play into the arguments in court against Apple right now, that they're being like prevented from doing anything innovative? I don't know enough about the legal case.
I think these are two separate problems, because the Apple thing concerns more with the App Store. Yeah, I guess it's the other way around, right? It's the App Store, and specifically on iOS stuff going on there, whereas I guess that, yeah, because they can't put the Epic Store on iPhone. Which I guess is part of their complaint, is that they can't do something like that. So I don't know if that helps them in that argument. I don't know if the fact that platform is garbage would help them in saying that we can't put it there. But it's certainly related in some sense.
All right. So the next one is for Ben. What do you mean by actual value? Doesn't the consumer get the exact product they ask for? So I think this general discussion, I think I picked this one out. And I think the general discussion was about NFTs and music, and what do you want with your NFTs and music? Like, what makes it valuable? And just as an aside, this whole NFT space, it got out of the media hype, but it's evolved very interestingly, and I'm a little bit more confident that's probably around to stay long term. So it's just an interesting thing in general. But this person replied, I want utility with musician NFTs. Access to never heard songs is a start, but I want my NFTs to provide experiences I wouldn't get anywhere else. Simply creating an album that lives on the blockchain doesn't provide me with any value. And so, yeah, what do you think about that, Ben?
Yeah, I would I would agree. I think I'm not sure I would find much value in just owning the music when I mean obviously people find value in like owning, like a piece of digital art, but so I guess some people probably would find value in just saying that they own some special copy of someone's album. But I personally agree with that. I'm not sure that access to never heard songs, that sounds a little bit much to me. Like, why would you? Are you really going to create something that's only going to be heard by one person who buys your NFT or the number, whatever number you set it at? I feel like that's kind of, well, maybe some people would do that, but I feel like that's kind of the antithesis of like being true to your art. You want to share yourself with the world. Most people do, I think. So I don't like that idea, but including something that is like real, not tangible, but like more tangible, I think is a good idea. I don't know if you have to go like the direction that the Kings of Leon went. I think we talked about that. We did our NFT episode where you get like either special album art or like access to like VIP tickets to their future concerts. I feel like the VIP tickets is a better sort of, I don't know if that's the way most people would go, but that's something that's like tangible value that comes with owning this.
For some cultures, because I really do think a lot of this has to do with like the culture of the thing, and then also the type of medium does matter. Like, you can't own a piece of a music, so like that limits the ways that you can NFT it in particular ways. So if it's like very successful things I've seen are experientially oriented, and then trying to use that to create sustainability behind the NFT. So, for example, Gary Vaynerchuk just came out with an NFT project that I couldn't scrap one for, because that was going to be my first and probably only NFT for the time being that I would ever buy. And it's a bunch of his drawings, a bunch of characters. The genius, I think, with the way that he structured it is that he starts off with 3 years access to VCon, which you can only get if you have the NFT. There are 10,000 of them, right? So it's a 10,000 person conference, but you can only go to the conference if you own the NFT. So in those 3 years, the value of going to the conference stabilizes the price while he builds a culture around it, if that makes sense. So like, then during those 3 years, he can try to pump up the value of those things via his marketing strategy, if that makes sense.
I'm not sure if well, you probably know because you're researching this. What is the conference about?
So Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V for short, he's a digital marketing agency guy. So, and he's a very big influencer type person. So it's really just about like, I guess the tagline is like marketing for the now, right? So like, what does marketing look like, And so a lot of small businesses love attending anything that he's at. One, to just get a chance to get like one-on-one advice with him because he's extremely open with his time, and two, to learn new strategies for how to market their businesses and such. So yeah, that's what it is about.
Yeah, I could see something sort of like that. Like, I don't know. Maybe if you could market something to like to get the NFT for this album or something. You can like meet the artist or something like that.
We've got this. This is from Ben. I don't know if you can remember what this one is about, Ben, just from looking at it. It says, romance is an important, meaningful part of the human experience, and movies that include it or revolve around it are not lesser than movies that do not. Joker had all the subtlety of a hammer to the face and should not have been nominated for Best Picture. Sunset Boulevard is overrated. Billy Wilder had many better films. And then there's another hot take right after that. Oh, there are plenty of hot takes to be had here. Keanu Reeves isn't a good actor. Do you want me to react to all of these, Ben?
I really can't remember what exactly this is from, but they all work. So you're welcome to take all of them.
Yeah, I'll rapid fire this one. So let's see. So starting with the first one, Joker has all the subtlety of a hammer to the face and should have not have been nominated for Best Picture. I heavily disagree. That movie is plagued by nonsense surrounding its release that just unfortunately overshadowed the, I think, really high quality filmmaking all around, except for one problem I have with the script, which is the fake out that it has with a certain romantic interest. I thought was completely unnecessary, which that whole character was unnecessary. I'm being vague because I don't want to give too much away. But does Joker revolve around romance? I don't think so. My problem is that it was a subplot and not properly developed. And so that's why I didn't like its inclusion, because it just didn't add anything to the story, in my opinion. So it could have been taken out and the movie would have had the same, probably even more potency than it did. I have not seen Sunset Boulevard, so kill me, but I have not seen Sunset Boulevard, so I can't comment on that one. Keanu Reeves isn't a good actor. I don't know. The guy sells his awesome, cool aggression pretty well. Now, is it like the one thing that he does? Kind of. But even his voice acting is really good. Like, I don't know if Nathan, if you've heard his voice acting in games and whatnot, but what do you think about his voice acting?
He's in Cyberpunk. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I watched some gameplay and I was like, this is trash. I didn't watch the rest of it, so I never got to that part. But I know I've heard it. I've heard a little bit of it, the part that gets memed on a lot. So it's like one line though, so I can't judge on the quality of his acting. But I don't know what other works he's been in the gaming industry.
I don't know. I just don't see the reason to pick him out. I don't think he's going to be winning an Oscar, next year. But I mean, leave him alone. He's fine. He's doing what he does. Ewan McGregor was a better Obi-Wan than Alec Guinness.
Which one is which?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to remember because I'm a pleb.
Alec Guinness is the original trilogy, and Ewan McGregor is the prequels.
I don't know if I agree or not. I don't know if the original Obi-Wan's performance is particularly good. I don't know if that's blasphemy or not. I don't know what people's general opinions are, but I don't know if they're particularly good. So maybe I agree with this one, but I'd have to actually re-watch and redigest to have an actual opinion. But I'm sure Ben has an opinion on that one.
Oh, I 100% agree with this one. Alec Guinness does a really nice job with what he was working with, but he really didn't care for the film all that much. He kind of thought it was a bit of a joke. Whereas, Ewan McGregor, he has a lot of memeable moments, but I think overall he really captures what the character is supposed to be. I think he's the best performance in the prequel trilogy, and he's so enthusiastic about Star Wars and about the character that as a Star Wars fan, like, you have to love him for doing that. And it's going to be interesting to see in the upcoming Kenobi series, where he's going to be playing Kenobi, getting to be Guinness. So how that plays out should be an interesting look into how he approaches kind of the character that Obi-Wan becomes.
There's a Kenobi series?
Yeah, it's been probably the most demanded things by the fans for a long time, and it's been plagued with like a lot of difficulties, rewriting the script, and I think it's starting to shoot at the end of the year with the release in 2022. Could be wrong about that. It's been delayed a couple of times because they know they have to get this one right. If they get this one wrong, you probably kill any hope of anyone older, or ever watching Star Wars again.
Yeah, I feel bad for whoever signed up for that. Like, they have a lot of work to put in because Yeah, it hasn't been looking so good since the originals, huh? In terms of reviews of movies that come out of Star Wars. So yeah, is it a movie or a show series?
I think it's supposed to be a 1 season, 6 episode show.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it's a limited series then, essentially.
I guess that's what you'd call it.
Yeah. Interesting move. Interesting move. Let me pull up one for Nathan. Oh, this is one I found recently. So this one says people who say coding isn't that hard, it's mainly Google and copy paste, are all bad developers. And they give their reasoning that you can read there. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is crazy because recently I've been getting into the theory of programming, um, and system design and stuff like that. This is very true. Like, if you can, it's true to a certain extent, right? If you're making like a example, like a calculator, right? You'll probably get pretty far into it by just copying and pasting, huh? Because there's a small system to design, right? There's not many parts to it. It's fairly simple. Uh, but once you get to any sort of thing of, not even that big, you need to like you have to be like, one, it's not just about writing the code. It's about like, just because you're going to write the code to do it doesn't mean it's good code, right? So if you copy and paste these solutions from other places, they might not be the solutions that you want because they don't fit whatever you're trying to do, right? Yeah, you need something that works with the principles of coding, right? So things like agile design, right, or behavior-driven development, stuff like that, test-driven development. Uh, that's not going to be that's something you have to do yourself. You can't, it's not going to be accomplished by copy and pasting code. Not to mention, if you have code that you don't understand, that's okay to a certain extent, but you're also sort of putting something in your work that you don't understand how it works. So if you ever have to change something about it, you're out of luck. I mean, imagine you're like into production or something like that, and oh, there's a bug in this part, and you don't know how to fix it, but it's been released already. Well, you're kind of screwed there. So, um, yeah, as it says, it has to be maintainable. That's what he says. And you end up getting messy spaghetti code when you end up just copy and pasting. They're really, I copy and paste a lot from like Stack Exchange and stuff like that, because it's okay if you understand it, and it's okay if it works well enough, right? For the task, which usually it does. There's not that many cases where you look up a thing and it's like, oh, it's not really going to work for my situation. You find the thing and then you can copy and paste it. But you better understand at least slightly how it works, and you can't go the whole way through doing that, because then you're going to get a Frankenstein project where you don't know how a lot of it works, and it's not going to be designed properly.
No, I don't really know. I've seen lots of people programming, but that is not something. I guess though, what that sort of reminded me of is I don't know like how the programming culture works, but just from hearing you talk, it kind of reminds me of the kind of early 19th century Italian opera composers. They literally had a book of opera figures, and that's how they wrote a lot of these composers were like churning out an opera every 2 weeks. They had like went to like their manual and like, oh, I'm gonna take this part right here. It's a good figured bass for a dramatic female, aria, and put it with this, like, so there is precedent for something sort of similar to that in music.
Yeah, it sounds like, I guess the website Stack Exchange would be that book. It's just the go-to for some nice code you can grab.
Yeah, as a programmer myself, like, I mean, if you're going to be a code monkey, or like, I used to be a programmer. I don't program anymore. But, if you're going to be a code monkey and you're just going to copy and paste code to make like simple tools, or to even, a lot of times when I end up copying pasting code, it's like API usage and things like that, where someone has already figured out the exact purpose that I want to use it for, and so I just copy paste. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong if that's the only thing you can do, if that's the only thing you need to do. But from my work at my prior job, if you don't know how to efficiently read and diagnose problems as well, then you won't be able to survive, because that's what you spend like 80% of your time doing, at least in my experience, is diagnosing. And it's not necessarily even your own problem, it's like other people's problems too. So yeah.
I gotta send you those. Oh, do you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
I gotta send you those programming theory videos. Even though you don't do programming, it's like really interesting how little like I hope this gets taught in school because like that'd be useful. um, it's like normally I just think about it as like when you're learning to program, you learn like the concepts of like the language, I guess, the concepts of whatever language you're programming in, right? And some things about system hardware, so you understand how it interfaces with what you're doing and the limitations. But there's like so much more to it, and like specifically like the one big system how you design things and stuff like that. So yeah, I actually found this video from a Discord server, and someone posted a he was the YouTube channel I was watching. He was talking about the failure of Cyberpunk 2077 and how it was delayed so long and ended up delayed 8 years and ended up still or not delayed 8 years, delayed a lot of years, but it was announced 8 years ago. And it still ended up being a failure in terms of programming and why this possibly happened. I was like, okay, that was interesting. And I looked at his channel. I was like, oh, this is some stuff I had like never thought of before. But yeah, if you're a programmer, you should look up stuff like that. The channel's name is called Continuous something. Starts with a D, I think. Continuous Development. I can't quite remember, but yeah, it talks about practices of like continuous integration and stuff like that.
Yeah, it'll be in the comments by the time this gets published. Oh yeah, this one's kind of funny. Piano is the best instrument because it's very easy to make a sound. I think this is from Nathan, right?
Yeah, that's kind of a memey one, but yeah, I was on debate.org, and then the topic was like whether piano is the best instrument or not.
Here, I'll actually read through the whole thing. I think it's pretty funny. That's why I was laughing. I'll start over. Piano is the best instrument because it's very easy to make a sound. Unlike the violin, where you have to practice a few weeks just to make a decent sound. Plus, the piano layout is very intuitive to the brain. Its layout is appeasing to the brain. You can also do far much more with a piano. As with many instruments, you can only play one note at a time, or basic chords. However, with the piano, you can elaborate chords. This makes it perfect for composition and getting creative with it. You also can forego intonation and focus on getting better at it rather than practicing for weeks just to make it an okay sound. Just a comment before you say anything. I used to play piano. Well, I guess still do very rarely. And you definitely can. There is intonation on a piano, so I don't know what this person is clearly new to playing piano.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna start with. I think any real pianist would say you have to practice to make sure you get the sound that you want when you want it. I'm not a pianist personally. Is it the best instrument? It's probably the most versatile instrument in the Western, tradition. But best instrument, that's kind of subjective. It may be the easiest to like pick up in an intuitive way for especially like a child. But I wouldn't say it makes it the best instrument. Again, most versatile, probably the largest range of things you can do. Hey, I like the flute. Flute's the easiest wind instrument to learn. Don't let anybody tell you it's not. It is. I teach flute. Okay, it's the easiest one to learn. But that doesn't really change its value. Every instrument does different things. Personally, I really love harps. I really love French horns. Obviously, I like the flute. Yeah, you probably don't want to be like, if you're a composer, you probably don't want to like rely on your flute because you can't do any more. Well, there are ways to play multiple notes on the flute in really advanced playing, but no, you can't do it like on a piano. So if you just want like an instrument you can quickly like learn to play something and then compose something off of it, yeah, piano is probably the way you're gonna go, unless you're trying to do like a rock pop thing, then guitar. But best instrument, I would say they're pretty much all equal.
To add on to that, speaking of composition, since I do a bit of that, I think I always start with a piano when I'm composing things, because when I don't have instruments, right? I have a piano, but I don't have like any other instrument that I can play well, I guess. So using like a DAW, right? It's very easy just to find a high quality piano VST, because reproducing the piano sound digitally is not the hardest thing ever. So it's easy for anyone who doesn't even have an instrument to just pick it up, digitally speaking. And also, what I've noticed is that it's a very good bass sound if you have depends on the piano. So I used to use a soft piano sound before. It doesn't quite work as well as a less soft one, a more average sounding one, because I noticed that on a piano, so I don't know like why this happened, but when I make music, I often think about okay, so let me restart. I should say that I make mostly electronic things, right? So when I'm making a soundtrack for a video game, I used to use more acoustic instruments, stuff like that, but I started leaning towards synths and stuff like that, right? So I got very concerned with things like overtones, because that is like a lot of what creates the sound of a synth, right? You're trying to make a nice sounding synth, you're going to concern yourself with the timbre of it. That's kind of the point of the synth, is that you can do whatever you want with it, right? So what I noticed with the piano is that it's a good bass sound, because it's not like the simplest sound, but it's also not the most complex sound. So you get this nice in between thing where it's not something like crazy like an organ, right, which has overtones going all the way pretty much. But it's not just like a sine wave, which sounds like nothing interesting. So yeah, it's a great instrument for composition.
Oh yeah, I pulled up Ben's recent one for me about the Tree of Life. So apparently it is the Tree of Life's 10th birthday as of yesterday. So let me read this one. So it says Malick is a very love him or hate him director. He's got some duds, sure, but Tree of Life is one of his best. What people don't expect or understand is how unique his films are. They aren't typical films, but they are like meditative poetry. They're pretty much clips meant to elicit certain emotions with philosophical narration over them. They're organized enough to tell a story, but the philosophy and feelings they're supposed to elicit take the front seat over the plot. Yeah, that's generally an agreeable feeling there. I think this comes mostly from the angle of his trio films that are particularly poetic and particularly sort of experimental. Well, except for Knight of Cups, which is a terrible movie. I've watched the other two in the trio many times now, and so I've gotten a really good appreciation for what his films do. And I think they do a lot more than people realize. There's actually a lot more narrative than people give credit, just because the narrative isn't spoken. It really is like a visually oriented narrative. You're expected to not just take in this sunset as just a beautiful sunset, but oftentimes there's content in that sunset that actually means something for the progression of the character, or there's something about this time in the room where the two main characters are tumbling about in very Malick fashion, that this time there's something subtle about a movement or something like that, or even the lighting, the time of day. And that'll tell you something about the character, the scene, etc. And it's a little bit more fixed, I think, than people think it is. A lot less amorphous. I think a lot of people are lazy with the way they interpret Malick, in that they find it feels like a blank canvas, and so they use that as license to just say whatever they think it means, as if it's their favorite pop song, as if it can just take on a meaning even if it's completely opposed to the philosophy of the film. Which I've seen. I've seen people say some really weird nihilistic stuff about Malick, and I'm like, that if you're getting nihilism from Malick, then you're reading Malick all wrong.
It's the opposite of his films.
Yeah, it's the literal opposite. And yet, some of the top reviews on Letterboxd, top liked reviews, like maybe a few of them mention that, oh, this shows how life really ultimately means nothing. And I'm like, that's like literally the opposite of what the purpose of the film is. Life, yeah.
You may watch the film in reverse or something, like watch it backwards.
They're people who think that they are smart with their takes, and maybe they've written a lot of reviews on films that are really not like this, but they view themselves as like sort of an artsy person, but they didn't really spend the time and energy to really engage with the work, which it does take energy, but that's a lot of things worth digesting take energy to digest. Yeah, but generally I agree. I think I agree. I mean, yeah, you're gonna love him or hate him, I guess. I think a lot of people who don't like him just the common critique I see almost always is that he's pretentious, and I'm just like, I really hate when people call directors pretentious, because often it's just a throwaway term, and there's some other problem that they're not addressing that they had with the film that is not pretension. There's very few films that I've seen where I'd say the problem is the pretension of the director. One of them I reviewed on this channel. The Neon Demon is a pretentious film, I will say that. But Malick, it's when the director is behaving full of purpose, and it's not inflated purpose, it's using the medium, even if it's serious, there's nothing wrong with seriousness, and he's filling the film with meaning and purpose. That's not, there are plenty of films like that are like in the canon. So that's not the reason to dislike something. I think when people say it's pretentious, oftentimes they don't understand the film. So, yeah.
Wait, what is the Tree of Life, by the way? I'm totally out of the loop here.
It's a fantastic film.
Is Malick the one who does a lot of improvising and stuff like that?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, he does a lot of improvising. A lot of the story is created in the editing room. This is particularly about the trio films. If you've watched A Hidden Life, his most recent film, it's not really. It's much more in the normal genre of filmmaking. Much more body to the script. Much more defined. It's about a real person, and he didn't write the screenplay. In fact, I got to talk to the person who wrote the screenplay on LinkedIn. So that's a really cool thing. Shout out to her if she ever sees anything else I put out. But, it was really cool talking to her, because for her, that had been a 10-year process making A Hidden Life, trying to get it made. And Malick came along that process after 7 years, So Malick, while feeling very personal about the story, and bringing his own style to it, it's a very, I still think people will say, oh, this is pretentious and amorphous, even to A Hidden Life, because they really just don't get it. The story actually is a defined story with a very particular meaning. So, yeah.
Wait, why did it take 10 years? How does that happen?
It can take a long time to get a film made. Yeah. So this person is an Oscar-winning screenwriter, by the way, and it still took her 10 years, because it's some film concepts are harder to sell to studios, no matter who you are, and this one is a very character-driven, slowly paced. But guess what? The studios were wrong, because people love the crap out of that movie in general. So that's just the nature of the industry. Who's this for? This is for Nathan. I think it's from Ben. I see the Nintendo Switch mentioned. It says, the Switch is highly overrated. Back before the quarantine, I had to drive to get to work, so the mobile aspect did nothing for me. The eShop is an unresponsive piece of garbage, possibly the worst launcher shop in gaming aside from the Bethesda launcher. Also, the Epic Games Store works fine, and honestly, I don't really miss the missing functionality compared to Steam. The Steam forums are a cesspool of rage and posting, and reviews are only good for letting me know something is being review bombed for some probably incredibly dumb / racist / misogynistic reason. I can name several shops / launchers that are worse. Nintendo eShop, Bethesda client. You can't even buy games on it. That's funny. The Windows Store. The Windows Store. And the Xbox Game Pass for PC.
No, he says Windows Store, and I say this as an Xbox Game Pass for PC subscriber.
Oh, okay,
which makes
gotcha.
no sense because you don't use the Windows Store for Xbox Game Pass. But okay,
yeah,
it has its own store. I don't know why that was something that they decided to mention, but okay.
Yeah. Thoughts, Nathan?
Wow, that was a lot. And very strange, I must say. I guess I'll just go through this from top to bottom. The Switch is highly overrated. I really knew something was off when I read the second sentence here. Back before the quarantine, I had to drive to work. The mobile aspect did nothing for me. I mean, is everyone driving to work? Is that how that works? I don't know understand why that problem would that's a you problem, bro. That's not a Switch problem, I'm afraid. The thing is, right, it's person to person, right? The value he got out of it was less because I guess he was not in a situation where he would just be somewhere and, use a Switch, right? I don't know if that makes it overrated because I don't think that's a general thing that happens, is that people buy a Switch and they're like, oh, I can't even use it anywhere. It's like, dude, you can use it in your home. I don't know. Although I guess, yeah, sure. I guess I don't know, dude. The thing is, right, I feel like this is like just a plus, right? Because you can't just take your Xbox around your house, right? Like the mobile aspect is not just for not being in your home. It's also just comfort. You can just sit in your couch or move to your bed or wherever you want. You can't just pick up your TV and your PlayStation and relocate like that, right? I don't have a Switch, so I couldn't talk about the eShop, so I don't know. Nor have I ever used the Bethesda launcher, so I don't know about that either. I address the Epic Games Store. It works fine, honestly. I don't really miss the missing functionality compared to Steam. Yeah, I get that. I think a lot of people, even though Epic Games Store is pretty featureless, I think people hate on it a lot too much because the Steam features that are missing are not that useful except for the Steam Workshop, in my opinion. Maybe if you're a frequenter of the Steam forums, I guess maybe that's a useful thing. I've never found a reason to ever want to go to the Steam forums. I never look something up and then have a Google search result point me to the Steam forums. It's just something I forget exists until someone mentions it, which rarely happens. So I have a feeling that not many people actually use it. You can post screenshots for your friends to see, but no one will notice unless you actually look at your feed. So it's not a useful feature really. So yeah, I think if most people were just forced to go to the Epic Games Store, not many people would cry about it and be like, oh, they'll get there and they'll be like, oh, they just forget about things are missing because it's not a big deal. Except the workshop, that's pretty bad. But yeah, I haven't, from the few things I've seen on the Steam forums, they don't seem that bad to me. But once again, I wouldn't miss it either. The reviews are only good for letting me know something is being review bombed for some probably incredibly dumb racist misogynistic. I've never heard of this before, so I don't know. I've never heard of who are you racist towards? I'm confused. Are you the character in the game? I don't know. Maybe that's a thing. I've never heard of that in my life. I didn't think review bombing was a problem either. Whenever I look at Steam reviews, it actually tends to seem pretty normal to me. Obviously, as with everything, some things I'm like, all right, this shouldn't be this high, or this shouldn't be this low. But it's just normal, right? I don't think there's anything getting review bombed like that I've heard of. And your alternative is the Epic Games Store, which doesn't have any reviews. So I don't know if that makes. I mean, wouldn't the option just be better? I don't know. I can name several shops with launchers that are worse. And as I said before, I've never used any of those. I've used the Xbox Game Pass. The Xbox app is what it's called. Because I had Xbox Game Pass for a few months. It's really bad. it's not like it's fairly slow, which is very strange considering it's just a bunch of like images, right? That's all it is. At the end of the day, it's a bunch of images that it loads. It crashes, which is disturbing for a Windows application made by Microsoft running on Windows. It crashes more than any other program I've ever used. Yeah,
But isn't
maybe
this
it's that's definitely worse than the Epic Games Store, 100%. But I can't speak about the other ones. So
but
yeah, that's all
isn't
I have to
this
say, I guess.
isn't that the story behind like basically all Metro apps? Are they still called Metro apps? Like
The like Windows 10 looking like
yeah,
things.
I think they're
I
called
don't know if
Met.
that's what they're called, but the only one I ever really used. I feel like I checked out the Windows Store when it came out, and I was like, all right, that's really cool, right? And I just never used it because no one ever puts software on it, right? You just download it from the internet. I don't know why. I don't know. It's kind of weird because whenever I think about like Linux versus Windows, I'm like, oh, Linux package manager is so good though, right? You just like type in the thing in the terminal and you just get the thing. You don't have to think about like, downloading it and putting it in the right place. It just works. But like, I feel like this is their idea of it. But I guess it just never took off. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know if they. I don't know about the performance of other. I guess if we call it Metro apps. I've only really interacted with the Xbox one.
So this one's for Ben. I'll give you my summary because I labeled the file. I think there was a conversation about. Yeah, you can basically ignore this image. And someone was talking about how Korngold, or sorry, that's Steiner, and versus there's a Steiner versus Korngold argument as to who won. I didn't even know what that meant, to be honest. And the person who wrote the original post had the position that Steiner won, and I think the argument was essentially that his works ended up having more staying power, and there was a lot of disagreement up and down the comments. So yeah, what do you think?
Well, I think I probably have to listen to a little bit more of Steiner's music to. I'm not aware of this like winning debate and no competition, so I'm not really sure. Maybe some people think there's a significant difference in their style, so I guess I probably have to listen to more Steiner to know what they're talking about. But what I do know about Steiner and Korngold as a well, neither of them are household names, but the one who's probably a bigger household name, if one of them were, would probably be Steiner. And that's probably because, yes, a lot of his films, the films themselves, have have had much more staying power and influence, like Casablanca. Okay, everyone knows, even if you haven't seen it, everyone is aware of that film. People don't. Some people might know like who Errol Flynn was and Olivia de Havilland, who were the male and female co-leads of, I think, probably like 12 out of Korngold's 16 films. The Adventures of Robin Hood would be the most significant of his films, Korngold's films, and then probably King's Row, the one I mentioned that Williams takes the main theme from, which I think is one of Ronald Reagan's first films. So in terms of like the films themselves being well known, yeah, Steiner wins. Hong Kong, Casablanca, probably a whole bunch of other significant things that I'm not remembering off the top of my head. In terms of which one, though, I don't want to say had more influence because I'm not sure I know enough about the styles themselves, like the differences between the two, but which one do composers talk more about? It's definitely Korngold.
I think there was a discussion actually in there about style. If I recall, someone was talking about the movement of orchestrators writing scores versus, and I don't remember I don't remember the opposition to that. Yeah, I don't know if that helps at all.
Yeah, so I will say that they're both Viennese, Austrian opera composers who were, I mentioned in my last podcast, are kind of imported talent. Steiner writes the first Hollywood score, so they're coming from a very similar background musically, and at that time, even more than now, for most composers now, the orchestrators had a larger role in the final product of the film. Korngold and Steiner and a lot of the other early composers were mostly writing piano scores or like 4 stave scores, 4 lines with like orchestrational notes, but not that detailed. And then the orchestrators would be more responsible just because of time frame, which tends to be even faster back then than now, if that's even possible, but apparently it is. So I don't know enough about. I'm trying to remember. There's one guy who did most of Korngold's orchestration. I don't know enough about Steiner and his orchestrator team.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sorry, I can't give you the exact verbiage that they were using. Oh yeah. So I kept going on the Tree of Life train because last time I didn't really talk about Tree of Life itself, so I just picked another random one. This one says, the Best Director Oscar for Nomadland should have gone straight to Terrence Malick. The movie itself is a total rip-off of what he does. And then further down, the actual person talks about Tree of Life, says, Tree of Life was one of those movies where the trailer got me ultra hyped. Okay, yeah. But the movie just left me cold. Interesting. I know it's got a question about faith and everything, but I kept thinking, if I knew this mom and her family, I'd think their worldview is pretty simple and pretty faith-based conservative. Also, if you enclose all of history and have dinosaurs, how I'm supposed to care for one family when the entirety of life is what the movie's about to some degree. It had a lot of promise, and I'm sure it worked for people, but not for me. In fact, I haven't been moved by a Malick movie since. I wonder if it's the relative breakneck pace he's been putting out since then. I don't know. First of all, to the funny comment up top that Malick should have gotten the Oscar. Yes, Nomadland is very clearly inspired by Terrence Malick, and that shows you what? It shows you that the Terrence Malick style, there's nothing wrong with it. People treat it like it's like, this thing that's unmarketable. And while Nomadland, it's not necessarily the most financially, profitable movie ever, it got recognition. And even before it got that recognition, it did get sales, despite, the problem was the pandemic, but it looks like it would have done well for especially its minimal budget. So yeah, that's funny. Tree of Life takes are really funny to me in a different way because I feel like the person's getting at exactly what the film is about, but not getting it. And so pretty simple faith-based conservative. Well, I mean, that's the literal point of this family, is to be, sort of, it's been a while actually since I've seen the film, but, the point is that he picks a family that is typical, that is the point, or not typical, that's not the right way to say it, but, is ordinary. If you were looking out from the outside in, would look like a pretty ordinary faith-based conservative family, right? But the interesting things is that you can explore really, really transcendent themes through ordinary life. That is the point, and so it's funny that this person says at the end that it's hard to care about one family when you're encompassing the history and have dinosaurs, and talking about the towards the end of the movie where there's just like really there's all this like just very dramatic, the it's calling on images of transcendence from prehistoric times, the Big Bang, and all of that, and all we did was go through a story of a family. That is the point. The point is that that what happens in that family might as well be as deep and interesting as the Big Bang. That is the point. The point is that contained in this story, this small microcosm of humanity, is the theme of everything, right? The love, the relationships, etc., etc., etc. That is the point Malick is making. And so, adding the religious component to it in particular, it's like, well, if you come at it believing that God, permeates space and time infinitely, then God permeates that family just as much as he watched over the dinosaurs, as just as much as he foresaw the Big Bang in his creative mind. And so all of that is connected, is the point of that whole bit. It's been a while since I've seen the movies, so I probably could have said more if I've seen it recently, but yeah.
Yeah, isn't that like the Big Bang of a dinosaur like accompanied with the the part of Job where, you know, God's like, where were you when I like built the foundations of the world? Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're like reading that literally, then I guess even it sounds like, well, you're insignificant. Like, but I don't. That's like the opposite of what the whole point is that like they're insignificant but equally as significant at the same time somehow.
Exactly. That is the juxtaposition. Yeah, that's a good point. I had forgot about that, and that is a good point. That it's more of like a Job-like portrayal than a Genesis one, you know, and it's really beautiful. Watch it again. That's all I have to say. It's not my favorite Malick film. I don't even think it's. I'm not sure where it lands. I'd have to rewatch it as of late, but I think it's a good primer into what Malick is about for the films that he would make after, except for Knight of Cups, which is a terrible movie.
Agreed. I'd probably go To the Wonder as my favorite, and then I don't know what, but I have to rewatch Tree of Life, but I really like Song of Songs or Song to Song.
Yeah, it's hard for me to pick between Song to Song. I think I like To the Wonder just that little bit much better English, just that little bit more, and then A Hidden Life, sort of like a return to more normal genre, even though it's very indulgent still. And I don't know if I like that better than Song to Song or not. I'd have to think about it. I think he's been on a tear, except for Knight of Cups. So don't watch Knight of Cups if you haven't gotten that from this.
I know some really vocal defenders of Knights of Cups. I should get some of them to argue with you and me on it. Of course, I probably have to rewatch it, and I don't want to waste my time rewatching it.
It's an incredibly boring film in the true sense, like unlike other Malick films, which people say, "Oh, it's boring because it's slow." I mean, this one's like, I think my theory is that it's so hyper personal that it means much more to Malick than it means to like any generic viewer who's watching it. Because like there are scenes that are like blatantly just from his life, like, or like something that he has close connection with, but like I don't got connection to that, and you're not explicating it. So like, you know, it just ends up being like a montage of scenes. It feels like
that was my exact impression when I watched it. Like clearly, all these things mean something to him, and he wants them to mean something to us, but there's something missing. There's like a missing link there.
Agreed. But if you want to bring that person or those people onto the podcast, we could do that. Let's do one more go round, maybe.
Sure.
Cool.
Sounds good.
So this one is for Nathan. Oh, sorry, covering our faces there. I think I found this one, or I'm not sure. It says, Rockstar fans let Rockstar get away with the exact things they hate in every other game. Yeah, what do you think about that, Nathan?
The thing is, okay, so I'm not questioning the fact that Rockstar gets away with a lot of things that they probably should not. But I don't know what the Rockstar fans' take on this is, and whether like, I like Rockstar, but these things are pretty bad, or if they're like, no, this is fine, you know? Certainly some odd things, such as having 7,000 different paid DLCs for GTA 5 and not working on GTA 6, which is the, you know, heavily requested, which, you know, DLCs are frowned upon. Whether or not they should be, depending on what it is you know, another topic. But would Rockstar fans let such a thing slide with other companies? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they wouldn't because it's pretty strange behavior from a company, or like just like I've talked about GTA 4, but the total lack of content is disturbing. uh, as in the lack of fun content. I don't mean there's a lot of boring content, is what I'm trying to say. I'm talking about GTA, to be clear. I've never played any of the RDR series, so I don't know about that. But from what I see, it seems like a Midwesternish GTA. So I don't know. But yeah, I don't know if Rockstar fans would be okay with it being done with other companies. I suspect no, but I'm not going to make that assumption.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like Rockstar fans are probably pretty average gamers, right? It's like a pretty.
I don't know of any like the thing is they don't have many games, so I don't think there are many people who are just like fervent like Rockstar supporters, right? Like Bethesda or something like that, who has released many titles that of great acclaim, right? It's just like you have GTA, you have RDR, you have a couple of them, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, I feel like there's not. So I feel like the amount of Rockstar fans are probably not that many.
I thought Ben would have fun with this one.
Okay. Yeah.
It says musicals are absolute BS form of cinema. And then the person makes the argument that the reason to watch a movie is to take yourself out of yourself and insert yourself into someone else's. Okay. The realism of movies allow you to accompany the characters on their adventure and escape your mundane existence. Having characters randomly break into song and dance where it makes absolutely no sense destroys that realism and takes you out of that journey.
Doesn't that make like any fantasy movie bad? Anything that's not realistic is a problem, right?
This is a shockingly common opinion, by the way. This is like not just about musicals, but like the purpose of movies. That like very generic understanding of the purpose of watching a movie is very common. It's very scary.
Oh, to just like forget things.
Doesn't it?
Bro, it's kind of sad.
Yeah. Wow.
That's kind of boring. It's sad. Like, yo,
just
like,
to escape
what?
reality. Like, okay, yeah, that's. So let's see. Number one, okay, are musicals always going to break some form of realism? Absolutely. All right. So if you want like absolute fidelity to life, then yes, you probably don't want to watch a musical. Does it break? Assuming that you want immersion, does it break immersion? Yes, if it's a really poorly done musical, and there are plenty of poorly done musicals. But if it's done well, then I think it only helps immersion. I mean, you literally get to sing your feelings.
Yeah.
I mean, what else? How else? What clearer way is there to like communicate what the character is feeling? There's some bad musicals, and there are some good films that are bad musicals, and some good musicals that are bad films. There probably are some good films that are also good musicals. Like for instance, I would say La La Land is a good film that is not a great musical, and that's not a reflection on the quality of its music. It just has no idea where the songs should show up. It's like 5 songs in the first 20 minutes, and you get like an hour with nothing, and then one more song. So that's a good film, has really good music, but it's a bad musical, and you could not turn it into a stage musical without adding like 6 more songs and more characters. Something like an older musical like The Music Man. I don't think, maybe if I rewatched it, I have a different opinion, but my opinion of it was it's really not a great film itself. Like it's functional as a film, but as a musical on screen, it's fantastic. So you can get one or the other. Probably a few things out there that are really good musicals and good films. Do you need realism? I don't think so. Yes, if you want realism, yes, people don't generally break into song in real life. Yes. Does that hurt immersion? If it's done really poorly, Like if you're La La Land, then you want to draw attention to the fact that you're like in a musical and then not in a musical and then back in a musical for some reason. Yeah. Does like the audition song becomes like an hour after any other song? Does that break the sense of immersion a little bit? Yes. But generally, I think if it's done well, you get even more immersion. You get to hear the characters musically expressing their thoughts and feelings.
This is a challenge to this person when I you're gonna hear this challenge when I reply to your comment. Watch The Sound of Music and come back. Like, what is wrong with you? That's my response.
Or Fiddler on the Roof. I don't know why that didn't come into my mind. That is a great film and a fantastic musical.
Agreed.
Also,
yeah, both of those are great examples.
Doesn't like the same way like a fantasy or sci-fi movie have they have something that's not realistic about them, right? Doesn't it just become part of the rule of the universe, just like those movies, just an accepted fact of how things are, right? Like, for example, like the idea of magic in Harry Potter. It's not like you're not unimmersed every time someone uses a spell. It's just like this is how the universe is, and it's perhaps more immersive when they do because like this is real, It's not, but it's real in this world, right? So yeah, wouldn't like music in a musical just be one of those rules of the universe where it would be weird if they didn't sing, like that kind of thing. If they just stopped all of a sudden, it wouldn't make you think, wow, this is all of a sudden more realistic. It's like, what happened? I've been ejected from this movie. So yeah.
That's why like, or I'm thinking of other things now, like West Side Story. I mean, the music is so organic that like it just seems like natural. Like music is transitioning from the background in and through the characters, and like they're just doing what they're supposed to do instead of just saying, "Oh, Maria, I like you." No, they're gonna sing. Tony's gonna sing Maria. It feels like that's just part of the world. That's my criticism of La La Land. It doesn't feel like part. It feels like part of the world in the first 20 minutes, and then it stops being part of the world, and then you're like, well, why are you singing now at the end? Which, and don't get me wrong, I like the film a lot, and I love the music. I just don't like that gigantic gap. It's like they couldn't decide whether it was a musical or a movie that had some nice songs in it. But yeah, when it's organic, it is as much a part of the world as Harry Potter casting a spell.
That is a great example. Yeah, that's exactly how I would put it. It's the one thing I really don't like about the way that people consume art in general, but like I said, this is like this is a very common way to understand like watching a movie. It's like escapism. Escapism isn't the only reason you consume an art. In fact, if that's the only way you're consuming an art, you might want to you might want to fix some other things so that you can enjoy art more fully. There are plenty of movies that are extremely depressing and are super realistic, that people love, like classics, those aren't like great escapist movies. Like, I mean, in terms of like making yourself feel better, because they're not going to make you feel better. They're going to make you feel sad probably by the time you finish watching the movie. So this is a too simplified, I think, look at how. And the other thing too is this kind of bugs me when audiences. I think it's always the job of the filmmaker to make it as easy as possible for the audience to be fully immersed into what they're seeing. But it will not happen if the audience member doesn't want it to happen. Like, you're not going to be immersed into a musical if you come at it with the attitude of musicals are not immersive, or you're constantly questioning, why are they singing right now? It's like going into a sci-fi movie that's not about the physics, and it's like going into Interstellar and thinking about all the minor like physics details that are bugging you the entire time. It's like the film, that's not the film's problem, really at the end of the day. Do you want to enjoy the film or not is really the question. So I think it applies equally to musicals as well. And also, come on, Sound of Music. I mean, I don't know. If you don't like Sound of Music, you're wrong. I've watched that movie maybe a dozen times, maybe more. So every time it's wonderful. I don't know who this one's from. It says it's a Martin Scorsese quote. So it says, "Can a film really change anything? I mean, what was the last time? Maybe the Italian neo-realists, where they became the voice and the heart of the soul of Italy, a nation that had been destroyed? I don't know."
This is mine. I remember.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I can totally imagine him saying this in his voice. Mr. Scorsese is maybe... I've not even gone through half his catalog. His catalog is deep. But he's probably, at least in my top 3 directors of all time. The dude is something else with cinema. And definitely up there with Terrence Malick, in the upper echelon. But I think Martin Scorsese might have an overall advantage in certain ways for me. I know when he says this, I think he's exaggerating, because I know the dude knows the potency and power of cinema from his own mouth, and also what he's done to his audiences consistently over time. I mean, it's like it's movies do change things, just like most art forms. Is it going to be the same thing as is it going to be the same kind of change or same noticeability as other art forms? Well, it depends on the type of message. It depends on the thing, and so I don't know if I can think of a concrete example off the top of my head, but I mean, it's just you can't come out of a movie let's say, here's a good example. If you can't watch 12 Years a Slave, right, come away from it feeling the same way about that era. I don't think that's generally possible. You may have thought you felt a way about it until you watched it, right? And then it added new texture and depth to maybe the way you thought about that era. Or, you can't walk away from Silence, even if you didn't like it, by Martin Scorsese. Even if you didn't like that film, I don't think you can walk away from it being an unchanged person. Even if you don't think about that film 2 months from then, that film is way too visceral and demanding, that as long as you were paying attention, your life changed at least a little bit. And so otherwise, we wouldn't desire art, right? We don't just desire things that fulfillment is not, this is getting more philosophical, but fulfillment is not just about being happy in the moment. Fulfillment is about connecting to something transcendent, and often that's calling you to change in some way, and so often films do this. Often all art forms do this all the time. Yeah, that's my position on that. What do you guys think?
I think you could say that about any work of art. Does a piece of music, can it change something? I mean, yes, occasionally you get real concrete things like Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony, where people are at the premiere all crying. Okay. Or his Seventh Symphony, where it's broadcast to the people in Leningrad, during the siege of Leningrad, and broadcast to people in the front lines, and the German soldiers stop firing to listen to it. Okay, yes, sometimes a piece of music has a real physical, tangible result, but normally they don't change things on the societal level of history, but they change everything in a silent way for an individual, and that's equally as important and powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when art appreciation decays and it becomes, I think we feel it overall as a society when we're not getting fed well by the art, the arts. And oftentimes that'll be moving from one medium to another, or preferring one medium over another, or whatever. But often too is just like general decay, and I think a lot of that's because people aren't being fed well from the art, which I think is necessary. They need it. I mean, here's a blatant example. Like I said, I think Scorsese's speaking hyperbolically here, because he always has questions about his worth and place and whatever. You can listen to a lot of his interviews and whatever. Just think about Inception as like the classic example of like a phenomenon, and it's like a non-trivial thing too, because it's not just that people were talking about it on Twitter for the next 3 weeks or something like that. That's not the impact, really. The actual impact was that people started to think more philosophically about existence. That's really hard for people to do. Like, just if you here's a great way to put it. If you had a class on the philosophy of existence, which is metaphysics, or sorry, whatever.
That's not metaphysics.
Yeah, that's ontology. The study of being, and you were taking a class like that. Are you going to be the same way engaged by the importance of understanding existence and reality as Inception gave you by the end of the movie? I don't think so. Not the average person, at least, And so it prompted people to change and think, and that's one aspect of art out of many aspects of why it's so important. Cool. I think that's a cool note to leave it on, because I feel like that encompasses all art forms. Actually, I'm curious, Nathan, for like the gaming end, like, how do you think people engage with gaming, like art wise? Like, do you feel like people? Because I feel like the average person doesn't think of it that way, Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I think the average person plays games that are more devoid of art, I guess, if that's yeah. The games people tend to play aren't, I guess it depends on the person, but yeah, I guess when you think about the most popular games, they're not generally ones that contain like stories and great music and stuff like that, right? They're like like the meta, right? Like what you want to make in order to gain the most success as a big studio is to make some like multiplayer, often like easily repeatable title, right? And I think it's hard for people who to play those games to see any art in them because it's not often that artful. It's made to just grab your attention and to keep you playing for as long as possible, or to in hopes that you'll buy the sequel because you keep coming back to the game or something like that, to keep the player base alive. I think people who play games that aren't like that often, I'm not saying that non-story driven games are devoid of art, to be clear, but the ones that are popular tend to be less artful. So story-driven games, which are, I guess, more of the artist side of things, I think people who frequent those games more understand it in a way. I don't know if they have a true appreciation for everything that goes on. I think no, not really at all. In general, of course. Because you still hear like people making like strange claims about games, like this game wasn't good because like something like that doesn't make sense, right? That doesn't actually have to do with what the game is for. And it had nothing to do with the purpose. The purpose of the game may have been fine, I guess, if they might have executed the purpose correctly. But for some like odd reason, it's like it didn't have enough of this, something like that, and it's like, dude, you missed the point. So yeah, I think the general outlook is not seeing it as an art, seeing it as something potentially escapism. Seeing it, I think a big part of it is just seeing it as something that you can do while you're bonding with friends. You're talking to them, or whatever. You're just playing a game, right? Or to meet friends, stuff like that. I don't think a large percentage of people will look at it as a form of art, even. So
yeah, that makes sense. All right.
One thing I just.
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Ben.
One thing I want to add to that too. I was just thinking, like the way that art can have an impact on someone in a tangible way that like it's not immediate. I was thinking of I know it's a pretty common thing with elderly people, especially people with dementia. My grandmother, towards the very end of her life, like basically not talk and basically had like no memory at all. But she was very insistent on singing and teaching everyone around her to sing this song from a musical, called "Anchors Away," with Frank Sinatra, I think, playing the title role. I can't think of it. I think the song is called "I Fall in Love Too Easily," but it's a song from a musical from like early 1940s, probably. I don't know the exact year, and almost 80 years later, my grandmother can't remember anything, can barely talk, is trying to teach us to sing this song. So it's you never know how like a piece of art will stay with someone.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, I don't know. I just think if art isn't transcendent, then I don't know why we would desire, hold on to, and chase after it so much so that like a lot of our just on an economic level, a lot of our activity can be explained by just wanting things that are beautiful, not necessarily, especially these days, as humanity progresses, it becomes more and more about art. People say entertainment, but I don't think they get what that the word entertainment has a different connotation, but it encompasses a lot of things that are just consumed not just for entertainment, but because they're fulfilling.
Are we still doing news?
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah. Do you have any news?
Yeah. So Unreal Engine 5, which was announced early or like mid 2020, I think early mid 2020, it's out for early access. So I don't know if it's anyone can use it. I think that's the case. I think anyone can just try it out. I think the things that they were mostly showing off were increased graphics capability, so global illumination, like high polygon counts, that some tech demo that showed like a really ridiculously high polygon count. How that actually plays out in the average game, we'll see if you're able to actually optimize it like that, or they did some sort of magic sauce that took them like 30 years to develop, that no one's actually going to ever implement into their game to do it. They have like this like pseudo DAW like thing called meta sound, which is like it's an audio tool in UE 5. Lets you do like audio processing and stuff like that. It looks a lot like the blueprints thing that UE 5 and below had, the visual scripter. It's like a node-based system where you attach things and you can make audio to different things and different scenarios and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm sure there's a bunch of other new things, but that's all I know of, really.
Any news in music, Ben?
Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head. Nothing stood out to me.
Yeah, I didn't look for news, but something that stuck out to me is that Amazon is buying MGM. And it's one of the very few things that's happened in the entertainment industry that has really like bugged me on a daily basis just thinking about it, and like it's really depressing, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not sure if we can reverse course. It's not even, it's just, I mean, right after they acquired MGM, or I don't think they've literally acquired it yet, but right after they announced the buyout, they announced that they were going to reimagine the James Bond franchise. And I was like, there are not many franchises that are respectable left. There are not that many. And you're going to take one of the very few left, franchises that I'd actually want to watch, and you're going to destroy it.
Dude, that's like clearly a cash grab, right? They just took the biggest name they could find. And they're like, new movie.
And it'll be available on Prime streaming. So Amazon will get what it wants, which is you can only watch their garbage, and you will be happy with their garbage, I guess, is what the situation will be. Because what else can you watch anymore? Everything is produced by gigantic entities that have no clue, not the first clue about art. So
it'll probably be the end of good James Bond music too.
I mean, when they said reimagined, there was some. Look it up. I don't remember the full details, but they already started talking in a direction of that tells me that the film is going to half its gross next time it premieres. It's going to get killed just like the Oscars did for very similar reasons, and the only companies that can absorb it, MGM couldn't have done that, right? MGM would have gone under. MGM's actually really small. They're more of a holdings company. I think they're actually purely a holdings company. And so MGM cannot take a risk like making James Bond trash. That's the last thing on their mind. Whereas Amazon, they could just do it because they can absorb literally any type of defeat you throw at them. They'll still shove the same garbage down your throat because they know they'll get at least that 1 extra 0.5% of people to get Prime, next year. And that's how the business model works. And it's not about the films. So,
continue.
No, go ahead.
They tried to step foot into gaming, but got promptly destroyed by competition because they're trash at doing things that are art related, I guess. They own a game engine, and they also own a streaming service. The streaming service is more of a worry, I guess. The game engine is absolutely not a worry because it's a fork of CryEngine. Nobody uses CryEngine anyways. So, I mean, no one's going to use like the Amazon bootlegged CryEngine anyways. So it's fine.
That's the thing, though, right? They started with the engine because you know what they were thinking. They were like, let's take over the entire pipeline, because that's how they function. They want to own the tools from beginning to end.
They probably just went to every engine company. Hey, Unity. Hey, Unreal Engine. You guys want to sell us like the rights to your thing? And they were like, no. And then they're probably like afraid of getting destroyed by like the garbage that would go on with Amazon management. And then CryEngine was like, you can have a copy, you can fork it, but like we're retaining our own CryEngine. And I did that probably because they're just looking for something, all right? But no amount of money. I like, dude, Unreal Engine's like far like they're the current like the free engines that you can use are pretty well into pretty mature things. I don't think Amazon's gonna come at them unless they sold them like literally like Unity or something like that. I don't think they're gonna catch up anytime soon.
Related news, real quick. I just thought of. So I have yet to look into this entirely, but it looks like AMC Theaters is pretty solidly going to be able to survive this, which is good news. And one place in which cinema can be saved is the theaters, ironically. The theaters could do something. I don't think they will, unfortunately. That's my prediction. As of now, the leadership has not changed, so I have no reason to believe that that the direction will change unless they were shocked so badly by what happened during this last year that they're realizing that they need to change the way they do business. I'm not so confident about that either, but we'll see. I mean, they were able to their stock short squeezed again, and they were able to raise cash off of the short squeeze, and so it seems as though they'll solidly avoid bankruptcy. But the crazy part is, if you gave me that money, I would make you a cinema empire. It would be beautiful. I'm pretty confident that I could do it too. That's like modern in the right ways, not like faux modern, where you think what you're doing is modern, but it's not.
We need more 3D glasses.
Oh gosh, no.
Dolby sound.
Hey, I mean, Dolby. I don't know that much about Dolby sound.
Oh, I know. I mean, actually, the one film I've seen in the Dolby, I don't know what's it called, like Atmos surround sound. I might be getting the name wrong. Like the moving sound. It's actually really like immersive. So I think maybe that's what's called immersive sound. I thought it was really cool, but does the average person care? Probably not. Is that going to get you to go see the film in theaters? Probably not.
It's just you can't be in the popcorn business. You got to sell the movies. That's really it. And you can do it in modern ways too. Hint, hint. The last the NFT episode that we did, the idea I said out loud for the public to hear is actually extremely lucrative. If someone were to do that, I have been convinced that what I said out loud was a great business idea. Hint, hint. Go do it. Because like it's like, you know, you have the opportunity to give people more than one reason to go back to the movies. Because the problem isn't the movie. The problem is that they forgot. They forgot why they go to a movie, you know? Marvel's not good. That's not a reminder. That's not a reminder that they go for the Marvel. They don't go for the movie. They could make the same movie as a show, as a TV series, and it would be just as popular. That's my point, you know? So cinema, people just need to be reminded what cinema is, and it needs to become culturally relevant. And that has nothing to do with pandering to XYZ people or doing... That's the wrong kind of cultural relevance. You don't get it. So, yeah, but AMC will be back. GameStop, also short squeeze stock. GameStop is short squeezing again, it seems. The whole market is shorted, random fun fact, the whole market is shorted like above average because hedge funds are leveraging because they've gained so much in the past like however many years that they need to show that they're hedging their bets. It's a whole funny thing the way the stock market works. But GameStop is doing exactly what AMC needs to do. They fired their entire team, basically. The CEO resigned, and a new guy came in. And they're, guess what? Foraging into the space of NFTs with their own NFT store, which is like literally brilliant because NFTs are hard to buy, notoriously. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to have to like learn first, okay, how do I get Ethereum legally? And then you're going to have to learn, you know, how do I put that Ethereum in a wallet without losing it all? Because you can literally just destroy your currency into nothing and untraceable. You can't get it back. You know, then after I do that, how do I connect that to a website? But GameStop is taking this angle of we can take a lot of that pipeline, consolidate it into one, and make the NFT buying process simpler. And with gaming, that is super potent. So they've got it. They understand it. They get the applications and everything. AMC, it's your turn. Fire your entire staff and rebuild. That is my recommendation. So, yeah. Well, it's been a fun stream arguing with Reddit. I don't think there was anything that controversial. There were some funny takes in there. But if you want to see this stream after we're done in the raw, you can go to mixedmedia.locals.com, mixedmedia.locals.com, and there for free I dropped the link to this stream, and you can go ahead and watch the entire thing. Other than that, whenever I finish editing, it will go live on YouTube and Rumble and wherever else there are places you can listen to podcasts, including Spotify, and now we're on SoundCloud. We're literally everywhere, so there's no excuse not to listen to Mixed Media on your drive to work, drive back from work, whatever. Yeah, that's basically it. So until next week, have a great week.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.